everybody. Thank you so much for being here and out there. Welcome. Come on in. An absolute pleasure. So I'm Mike Wendt. I'm the programming director here at Woodland Pattern, and it is a tremendous pleasure to be celebrating 2 new chapbooks in the LOTUS Untold Stories chapbook series. So thank you very much to Pita Daniels and to Ashley Williams for being here and sharing from those chapbooks. Thank you, of course, to all at LOTUS, to the Untold Stories program, Austin, who's long been a friend and collaborator of ours at Woodland Pattern. Excited that the chapbooks were printed by Pitymilk Press, Chelsea, which is, of course, a wonderful and favorite press of ours here. So, fantastic collaboration of wonderful humans in and around the Milwaukee area, which is beautiful. So, mostly I'm just up here to say thanks and welcome. I'm also here to suggest that you might come back and see us again sometime. So one thing in the near term is that we have our monthly open mic on the Resound Return, which is hosted by Antonio Vargas Nieto, who works here at Woodland Pattern and creates a fantastic vibe, a great space for people to share work. Fresh out of the notebook all the way through to published books and all things in between. So that's a really nice time. That's the last Friday of the month, September 27th. And then there's more besides. Our latest print newsletter is freshly available. So find out what's happening through the end of the year there. The other thing I might mention with, I know some poets in the room, is that our annual poetry marathon is not until January, but registration to participate will open on October 1st, which we'll make it happen. But the exciting thing is that has been virtual for the past several years for obvious reasons, of course. We will return to at least to a mostly in-person format. There will be occasion and opportunity for people to share work. Pre-recorded work, as has been the case in our virtual marathons, but will be largely in person at St. Kate Hotel downtown. It's a really fun time where now it's 24 hours over 2 days, and we welcome a couple hundred poets, musicians, others who share work kind of continuously for a very extended period of time, and it's wonderful and surreal, and hope you might consider participating. All right, and I will stop, and am now happily going to turn things over to Austin. Austin, thank you so much for helping to organize and always thinking of Woodland Pattern.
I'm just trying to soak this in. This has been a long time coming, years in the making, and I'm just so excited and honored to be here. I'm going to just do a few thank yous as well. Of course, thank you for that. Thank you, thank you, Mike, and everyone at Woodland Pattern for hosting us again and again, and for all the work you do in the community. I'm really in awe of your organization. I would also like to thank Erica Petty, our executive director and senior attorney at LOTUS Legal Clinic. There's Eric over there. This chapbook series was, an idea I pitched to her. Without her support and enthusiasm, we wouldn't be here today, so thank you for that. Of course, I also want to personally thank Pitymilk Press and Chelsea here in the audience. Incredible work you've done on these chapbooks. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. Chelsea, you're just a wonderful collaborator, and I just really appreciate the whole journey we've been on. And I also want to say, Chelsea has a brand new chapbook out herself called Orange Poems. I've read it, it's phenomenal, it's incredible, and you can buy it here today, so I highly recommend checking that out as well. And of course, the writers, my good friends Ashley and Pita, thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting in me and in Lotus to go on this, several year-long journey to reach this point, to collect your poems in this book, and that it will live on eternally in the printed word is just such a beautiful thing to me, and it makes me just so happy and full of joy, and I hope you feel the same way. I guess I was going to say that, if anyone doesn't know, this chapbook series is really the culmination of all of our programming through the therapeutic arts program, which means that both Pita and Ashley have gone through our Untold Stories program, and they've published in our magazine, and they've collaborated with student artists. They've also been through our Rise and Thrive program, where they've written more beautiful poems and collaborated with a professional artist. And now the chapbook series really is the final step in our therapeutic arts programming. And so in a way, it does seem like this is graduation day. And graduation is a kind of an end, but of course it's also a beginning. And I know both of you well enough to know that you're going to continue writing and bearing your souls and inspiring all of us one word at a time. So thank you for that. Quick agenda. I think we're going to start off. I'm going to introduce Ashley in a moment, followed by Pita and his friend John Madura, who's going to be playing some beautiful music for us in addition to the poetry. And then afterwards, of course, stick around for a short kind of a discussion between the writers, facilitated by Chelsea from Pitymilk Press. So that's going to be really interesting, too, to kind of get a little bit of insight of the process behind the poems. So without further ado, let me introduce Ashley Williams. Ashley Williams is a writer based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who currently works with college students as a financial aid advisor. Outside of office work, Ashley also has special interests in sci-fi, fantasy, surrealism, and animation. As a writer with over 15 years of experience, Ashley has found comfort in all forms of writing, with an emphasis on poetry. You may find more of Ashley's works in Untold Stories magazines and the Pink Salt Art Collective zines Volume 2 and 3. Please welcome Ashley to the podium.
All right, I'm here. My name is Ashley, as Austin has announced. Awesome job, by the way, Austin. And just to start out with something that no one knows in this room, not even the publisher or Austin. So first and foremost, some of you might feel uncomfortable knowing the name of my book, but technically, each first word of the book is an anagram. And if you mix them around, you'll find the book's second title, Wants. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of put you in perspective of what these poems are going to be about before we dive in today. There's going to be poems about race, some mention about politics, and then also just about the whole gender spectrum. Well, and to start out with, we're going to start with some traditional Shakespearean sonnets where it's more so about longing and love. But as we go deeper, we're going to come into some issues, so have an open mind and be prepared to be amazed. All right. A depressed bitch who writes Shakespearean sonnets 1. Can I grab this? Okay. There we go. I write this love for sorry. I write this love to you for the mischance of our lips brushing, touching. Glance 1 time, I missed my cue, and now I stand, dance. Jazz can't even save the blues I feel. 2 times I've been broken hearts like a surgeon, cut them open, observe and dissolved. Begone in bygones, we say, lest burgeon. These feelings, once ignored, blossom, absolve. Against a clouded window we view us, happy, holding hands, sassy, snappy. 3, it was a crowd, so I left to make it yours, which our names are carved in my dampened heart. The flowers that once grew, now forced apart. I missed an entire stanza because of how nervous I am. I'm sorry. All right, that's the first one. A depressed bitch who writes Shakespearean sonnets too. We shared a meal, which made it real to me. I saw your nerves, you saw mine, undone for what was the point? What was the exact time? I can't forget the sting in your eye. Bore, into my soul you did. Felt my purpose, but I rejected it because of life. Tired, but you held me tight. Such dispurpose. When I saw you go to him, but what lies amidst tattered pieces of misery? Lie memories that helped me stay alive. Our trust shattered from lack of chivalry. Hearts beat what beats without you. I clive. Further atop the coldest mountain I stake my desires and always come up dry. Death's a never-ending dead-end job. We met back pre-pandemic, no screens, just us. We laughed and called often to curb the lust. Death knew us intimately, waited us. At the table of suicide, we were a must. Death's dive-in was a reserved seat we got. From the past with our traumas, sight of fries, extra depression with the pain we fought. Chained to our seats until death made us breathe. It got worse when the sickness came, crowded, wall-to-wall seating, waitlisted, stockpiled, exclusive no more. Death had us shrouded. People were doubling up seats, rock-piled. Now we stay here with mental illness. Death, the ever-enchanting waitress. Mania sucks. I watched the clock for mercy to give me time to process the trauma life gave me. Instead of impacting y'all, it's all me. It's me here, or me there, it's me. I can't see you due to the mania. It eats me, directs me, that mania. Tells me what I cannot be. Mania bites me, fights me, hates me. Ugh, mania. Makes me break rules when I want to keep close. It makes me break rules I want to keep close. It deters me from my path. I want to go far out, away from the stated post. The most I can offer is some loud boo. Mania drives me, I cannot control, so I hide behind the curtain lest I show. 30 is too old for a 40-something. I became aware of the smaller things, like the smirk a man uses, devilish. When he wants something you cannot give, bring, not a spray bottle nor taser, relish. Relish in the fact that you can see this. Now and forever, the dark aura burns, images in my head of my past. Bliss I feel now, knowing it's behind me, churns. The man spurned, friends gone, valuing so much the younger than 30 subtraction. When my age hit 30, he found some smudge, modal perception, master deception, learning that being alone is a good trade, to be betrayed for not being of age. The ramblings of some old-timer, 30. Birthdays are to be celebrated, for there is no promise for another. One thing I have learned to look down the bore, Russian roulette applies to dating. Tons of people get shot every day, hit, harmed. I leave myself open for that, strangely, as if love is worth dying for. Armed and ready, love spools out like yarn, crazy. Love could wrap you up or give you a headshot, scrambling brains like eggs, blurry eyes red, but humans line up for it, giddy. Ought? Strange creatures beget strange things we won't dread. Love is a losing game, but so is life. Look down the barrel of love and stay quite strife. My love, the feral beast. It opened us all up, piece by piece, bites. Exit our bodies like wounds festering, and the blood that runs thereafter kites, leaving valleys of crimson pestering. This love we share, an animal, untamed, will drag every bit of flesh into its canines for shallow divots, pivots chained. Familiarity breeds love, the paths split. The red runs until the pallor softens. Often, rigor mortis stops motion prompt, but love makes us heart pump not stop. Love frames us, blames us. How dully imprompt. Love leans and revives based on love's sway, for love bites well, but feeds on fresher prey. to balance trust with caution. Our love story begins before Austin, somewhere between Texas and Virginia. To choose between there, Nebraska, Boston, my heart fluttered, then I am Lavinia. Enough maps, more about emotional damage, collateral, all on the books. Breakups, they're never clean, unsociable. Friendships break like sourdough bread. Took a lot for me to write about it. Shook along my present, healing is a must. Love may rust, but the cleaner is juke-ing up all the bad, ugly, taboo sus. Maintenance of yourself is key to life. Do that or risk endearing yourself with truth. All right. Hey, is they actually a gender? Weirdo. That's the title, I'm serious. I admitted my folly, my foolish. There's my silly, my stubborn, my stupid. All lined up together, shot, coolish. We mourn together, too. Folks may call Cupid. It's a privilege to want, to desire, to cup the world in my hands, protect it, to find hope even without my sleer. Mistakes cause too much trauma, so I flit. Up into the sky, we perch like birds, brood us. Humans ponder our doom more than our boons, sweep up my worries like a broom, lewd, my femme peeks out, nervous, my face ruined. Vulnerability cuts like a chef's knife. I show it, leaving me open to rife. Come on, phone. Don't you see we have a performance to do? All right, it has now decided to work with me. Please? Pretty please? Pretty please has gotten to my favorite poem, so I'm mad at it right now. Please? It's like, can I have some help, Austin?
You want to read from the book?
Yeah, why not? Thank you. I got stuck. Sorry, tech issues. I do comedy too, I guess. You did it. You're supposed to do that at the end. Thanks, Ray. With an eye. All right. I am going to skip this one because it's already been published in one of the Untold Stories books. Also because I'm getting to my favorite set of poems. Not another Tinder date. We consume with our eyes first, then our mouth. After that, what we consume ends up gone. That power gets into a happy pout. They hug me close, gentle and safe. A yawn starts quiet, then erupts into breakdowns. You hold me close, still, calm me down. I'm watching that show you liked, no breakdown. See, I've grown. I'm sitting here, no need for crowns. Dating is like to be high-end, dating is like to high-end dining nights. It's usually overpriced, but the name, the prestige, the way things look around Viet, until you realize in the mirror vein, it's just life, how we grow in from different paths, and for some, fancy dinners aren't their scath. Femme does not equal girl. I wanted to date the famed Grim Reaper, but their knife hardly slashes my soul skin. I cackle, allowing my finger keepers to dig into flesh, slurp up, swimming grim. Femme fatale is boring, archaic mess. Readjust the familiar weapon. Heal the wounded essence that gnaws the dress. I continue onward. Our life beckons. Deeper into the hell we live, Mom Earth. I feel what crisp other skin singe my own. I inhale sharply. You're so strong, Worth. If you're inside the worst, what's hell? The throne! It's Junior's cat, a contradiction. Belong with what world? What awful fiction? I'm more picky than Pita is. I like to read specific ones I like. All right, friendly folk, with an emphasis on the friendly. We wave at each other when witnessing the world crumbling around, birds chirping. We wonder if hearts are to be buzzing, busybody bees in chest, pain, charting. They are friendly, but bond the innocent. They are cordial, but refuse the fact that they once feared many with guns, heinous. Those actions are called brutal, but true fact, killing all of everyone, widespread. How? Is not genocide. No, this is not some trick or some fake facts to make you bow. No matter how we grow, we can be bought, losing our usness to indifference. makes it easier to grow diffidence. Oh, I like this one. I'm gonna end on this one. It's called gendered paper. I write too much like a dude. Shake my legs. Did I just pee? Yes. Do I have a, why do you want to know that? I don't peg. I don't fuck. To be blunt, I prefer hums. I like music, wrestling, muck, gunk, dirt. I like dresses, perfumes, bath bombs, relaxing. Video games, gore, other Hester blurts. I love, my love for those hate me collapsing. Self-care is like cutting off dead weight. Like when folks shave legs, when people pamper, we should pamper our socials too. Evade, people akin to interviews. Banter, remove gender from society, please. Gender can stay on thin ice. What a squeeze. Thank you, my name is Ashley Williams, and I'm sweaty as a bitch right now.
Thank you, Ashley. That was amazing. Okay, now it's my honor to introduce our second author, Pita Daniels. So, the poems of Pita Daniels have languished on napkins, in newsletters, and flown on the wind over oceans, off mountain peaks, and most recently in the forests of Midwest America. In 2021, his poem, quote, "The words wrote me into the day," unquote, won the inaugural Adult Creative Power Poetry Award, from Arts for All Wisconsin. Other poems of his have appeared in several issues of the Untold Stories magazine, published by LOTUS Legal Clinic. He lives with a neurodivergent brain, severe asthma, PTSD, and has been in recovery from multiple addictions since 2010. A survivor of sexual abuse from both women and men in childhood and as a young adult, he has lived with suicidal ideation as long as he can remember. 4 techniques of meditation, as revealed by Prem Rawat, grounded his life, and he has practiced those techniques since he was 16. Bloodlines is his first book of poetry. He lives in Viroqua, Wisconsin, on an east-facing hill with Gabrielle, a wood-burning furnace in the basement, and a treehouse in the backyard. Please welcome Pita Daniels. And John.
Ashley, you have inspired me. I'm not reading all the poems in my book. I made some selections. The book is a journey, and the early poems are pretty explicit about some of the trauma I've experienced. And then as the poems progress, we move from that kind of traumatic expression to beauty. Although, thanks to Austin and the opportunity at LOTUS Legal Clinic, the therapeutic arts program has helped me as a survivor and so many of the people I've met to find our voices and to turn our experiences and our words into beauty. So to take, in fact, one of the current poems I'm working on is this idea if you've gardened that, maybe you've made compost. And so to make a compost pile, you take grass clippings, you take old leaves, you take garbage scraps, you take manure from animals, you mix this up. But if you don't do anything to it, it rots. And so I feel like a lot of what's happened to me has ended up in me and rotted. And so I'm working on a poem that uses this concept of making compost out of all that, and I need to go in and stir it up and aerate it and put a lid on it so it doesn't keep getting wet and rotting. And I'd say that's a metaphor for this journey I've been on with LOTUS Legal Clinic. You've helped me to go inside to these places that are rotten and like stir it up and accept it, and to know that the stirring and the finding words will turn it into rich compost that can lead to incredible growth. So the poems I chose are all from the book, and I also wanted today's presentation to be a journey, and joining me is John Madura, a classically trained violinist, fourth generation in your family? Something like that. And I met John at an event like this in Vroka, where I live, where one of the librarians in town is a published novelist, Kimberly Kafka, and she had a book event like this, and she didn't want to do reading from her book, so she heard about me, and I had the opportunity to read from her book at her event. And at the event, she had asked John to present first, and so that's how John and I met. And we've been on quite a journey together. To want to taste blood. My living has been a search for blood, for succulence, not blood from slices of knife, or the bloody welts of sticks and stones, or a penis inserted quickly and with force. I found the blood of words in the tipped beak of a pileated, oscillating, and the echo reverberates, and the words, the invisible, vibrate, echo between the ears. Words have cut me in two, laid me bare. I became the slate you wrote on with toxic spear tips. Risen, suppressed rage became a regurgitation, a drowning. I became the field for your weeds. Your words grew matted into a loamy mass, as if the softness of love petals or lyricism would minimize the verbal onslaught, the single poke, the utter powerlessness, like when the skinless fingers broke on my shore, like when the verbs pounded on the embedded blades of past rapes, still burrowing rape worms. Rape creases the recesses of my mind. Will words touch the heart? Will I taste their blood? No. Dust is the scar tissue, the inevitable result, and inevitably the tiny particles hill up over my toe bones and into my lungs and threaten to bury me alive, but no blood. This spring, the spiders defy gravity again, dance on the wind again, wrap eggs again, disappear again. I used to want to take revenge, to taste blood. Instead, when I can, I watch the spinning time of spiders. May I suggest a crisis? Not a bunch of white birch scattered over the forest floor, revealed after the melt, nearly overgrown with spring underbrush. Not the crisis of birch. I mean, the bark is watertight. Those birch will rot really quick. But when a story emerges from rotten birch, or an ideology, or the blood of the cocoon sloughing the tightly wound strings of the past, then growth, then wings, then another ring, a baby tree, a baby, but the newborn can always become what the father did not hope for, a monster, a clawing crisis. Sure, we grow up. Sure, we fall down. Sure, we bury the secrets. Sure, we bury what we will not tell and live with a lid on who we are and where we have been, or where we think we're going. Crisis for a while unifies, and we live as one for a while. Then disruption like an elephant, its tusk against a tree, and each tree quivering. Nemesis, all's well that falls away softly, but softly those ghostly memories creep and sleep. The body shudders at the thought, while roughly the ghost twins, old friends, jerk off his socks. Creeps. The daylight rains away the sunrise today. Little bobbers on a daybreak lake. The twin girls bob in the water, and then their nipples rub in his eyes, their eyes piercing, full of nectar, body shake. Their wants follow, bat-like, full of empty grasping. They awkwardly fumble at his pants while the watcher pees. Silently, he tries to flee, but fleeing, he finds he keeps coming back beneath the roots on Mission Creek, where he is ate and eaten. And his childhood was eaten. And the bodies of the older twin girls keep burning up the map. Keep blowing up his sleep. The guillotine dropped up. Supposedly among the smoking ash, the charred half walls, the 1,000 unreadable books, the stash of reconstituted silver awaits discovery. 1,000 burned books and a glint of hope. Is silver more precious than words, than family? When you mix memories with ash and mist, are they mud? We are but mud. We smother the air with smoke out of rubble. We lacerate the cobalt sky like a silver guillotine blade. Painless, each half of the blue gouges like an anchor. Each half, like an anchor, stirs up the sediment. Air foments what holds blue to blue. When a father burns down the house he built with his son and then shuns him, what's the son to do but anchor to blue and be buffeted by the tempest of mud and mist and words to be a guillotine? These memories cut like pressed ash, soggy with charred books and burned words, sliced by an updraft, cracked diamonds, cut sky, invisible goodbye, survive. The pelican and the blood. You are not supposed to be here with your curved beak. You're supposed to be at the sea. It is not supposed to be dripping from my curved elbow onto my knee, but instead within me. Pelican, you're supposed to be at the sea, yet here you skim. This fresh water, bereft of salt, no smell of seaweed or kelp or tidal rush. This great lake looks like the sea, but water without salt, without kelp, without tide can still draw an ocean bird, a pelican bird. Oh, pelican, you glide, unlike the blood that drips rarely. Rarely am I so gashed that my hand does not stem the tide, the gravity of blood dripping from the torn lip. My blood seeps between my fingers, seeks to drip each drop off my elbow. Bloodlines water the earth. Life abides. You, my heart, reside here with your blood pressure. You pressure my ribs. Blood rises like the tide between each knuckle, each nail, each wandering hair. You, blood, flood the pale growth over these bones. Will you journey back to the pulsing fireball, the earth core where you sink no more? No, gone, a ghost. My blood flies to me out of my bones, each drop curved like a pelican beak, unseen and colorless until the upper lip, struck by metal, drips. You really should watch where you walk. I watch pelicans glide, seemingly skimming blood off the top of freshwater waves, seemingly oblivious to lacerations or drops of water or split lips or internal grimacing over apparent inequities or belief. You really should watch that wallowing in grief. The way. It's the way the waves wake up the shoreline shores, the way the ice accumulates, the way the cumulus clouds race. Off a ways, a doe daintily places her hoof on shoreline snow and sips from the lake. Tabby cat flexes at a spring leaf just before it springs. The way the bud sings in the mist, or the way a day journeys within a day, the way a foal falls and gets up again just after birth, just under a cutting sun, the way the day cuts in the color, the way the granite listens to rain, the way the rain kisses the lichen, the waves wander upon the shore that takes my breath away. It's the way we cut down mountains for a highway or a home or for sheer delight that takes my breath away. The way the artesian spray of syllables tickles my ear, or when the tabby cat dander, or any cat for that matter, comes into my lungs and sticks like a cockle burr that takes my breath away. It's as if a plastic sack tied around my neck took away my breath, took my breath away. It's as if a voice stuck to my breath and said, with no words, said, please stay, please stay. The way I take breath for granted takes my breath away. Stay right here. Hey now, breath, you, the house that defied the dust, the death. In here, you, crimson palace, where the chimney, a bloodline, breathes death. Hey now, breath, you, the one, will breathe me to my death. You, true love, I will not run. Please, love, change my mind, change my death. The last place I want to be is with you, within me, within the peace. Breath. Side effects in protest. The famous Vietnam photos drew me in again. All three of them. The napalmed naked girl running. The soldier's bullet captured between barrel and head. Instant death. The monk in meditation, serene, cloaked in flame, captured, casualty of photos, casualty of obsession. Though not a monk, I could protest like a monk, but why would I set myself afire? And where and why would I do it? And what would I write, and to whom? The daily imagination, the firelight licking me, till the wind blows away all that char, all those thoughts, all that daily pain. And then I see the blue sky again, and clouds, and movement, and get off those suicidal meds. Brittle leaf. If I did not know about the wind and what it is. When the brittle leaf came upon my side, when it scraped beside me and shadowed me on my autumn walk, would I want to hide? When it did, I considered that leaf a living entity. Of its own volition, it skittered and spoke and saw the sky hawk-like above and all around and eyed me and pierced me like an arrow. I awoke. It was then I heard the nameless, a wordless sound. Then I found my shadow to be a single brittle leaf above a river of cement, me sanded by my breath, words sanded, a leaf in conversation with my feet. It's a brittle fact that all will turn to dust in death if I did not know about the wind and what it is. Ice for Gabrielle. Hoarfrost crystals grow and hang from the tip of each part of each branch like summer lichen until a word, a wind, blows them all away, or they're loosened by a thaw and fall. Can the past be freed from the present like fallen hoarfrost? A frozen heart stays frozen in the prism of its own making, frozen till fractured by words, by looks, by loss, by little pricks of childhood. As the lakeshore ice grows and sheets this winter, cracked by the wind, and pack ice piles into the cove, bundles of ice float with bundles of ice. Heads rise, a bevy of swans. My heart melts. Life sings again. What it is, I'm a melancholy man, that's what I am. All the world surrounds me and my feet are on the ground. I'm a very lonely man. It's from the Moody Blues. The notes flew lonely from words, from wonder to despair, from feet in quicksand to thoughts that sing spectacular. The light dripped off the tip of each leaf. The light gathered like dew on the top of each blade of grass, each needle a bit of bundled light. And barren branches exhaled, and the feet walked on the light. Where did you stand when all the wind gathered all your light? Did you hear the light sing? I holed up in the cave. I straddled the mountaintop of melancholy. I straddled a gale. Melancholy, what it is. Oh, lover, come bed with me. Together we will glimmer in the leaves of grass and on the needles of barren branches, on dew feet and sweat. Melancholy, what it is. Bloodlines. They say they can be traced. Really? When water turns to blood and blood to water? When unrecognizable remains languish among the rubble? When every snowman comes crashing down or melts? When red turns to brown and brown smears the horizon? When each horizon line, steeped in blue, bleeds water? When the shame of the great-grandfather runs into the grandfather, runs into the father, and into the son? When the mothers and daughters have had enough, the sun cannot be stopped from rising. The lines of light run among the unpredictable cuts, and each laceration bleeds predictable blood, and each bloodline comes from the center of each laceration, they say. They say they can be traced, these lines of blood, as they sink into stone and fire. Flowers bloom under the sun, whether we are here or whether we sing or whether we keep killing each other and ourselves. Bloodlines can be traced. Bloodlines scatter like dragonflies or cherry blossoms. Thank you.
Okay, we're just going to take a few seconds to set up a couple chairs here, and we're going to have our Q&A. And I would love to invite the authors back up, and of course Chelsea, who will be our moderator. And yeah, that's it.
Oh Lord, can you help me? I don't want to be too aggressive with it.
I know the struggle is hard.
Oh, no, yeah, of course. I'm just gonna open this because I have some notes on here. But yeah, maybe we can start this portion with another round of applause for our authors. That was absolutely beautiful. That was great. Yeah, just for context, my name is Chelsea. I'm the founder and managing editor of Pitymilk Press, and it's been an absolute honor and privilege to work with your work. And seeing it live was a magical experience, very, very inspiring. I thought it might be interesting to start hearing about your initial meeting with poetry. So how did you meet poetry in your life? And how did it develop in relation to you and your healing journey, and then also culminating into this project that we got to witness today? So who would like to begin? Right or left? Ashley?
So, like my biography says, I've been writing poems since I was a teenager. So, what I don't often talk about is where it all stems from, because you heard me read. Everything feels like polished, nice. That was not me 15 years ago. I was very trauma entrenched. I was in a situation where I felt like I was losing a situation when I was much younger. So around the ages of 5 to 10, I experienced so much sexual assault. I thought about often myself when I was a kid. But what I found to help me was writing. And what they made us do for most of my middle school, even in elementary school, we had these really particular ways to type. I hated it. So I learned that way and the way I know now. Where does this lead to? What does it lead to writing-wise? Well, when I used to write handwritten stuff, no one could read it because I had sloppy handwriting. But now, the advent of computers made it so my handwriting no longer mattered. So that's when I started shooting myself further and further into writing. Even in my memories 15, 14 years ago, I still get poems that pop up from way back when. And I think what happened with me, teenage years until I met Austin, I was really using it as a double-edged sword. I feel this, I need to use this. But while writing it, I could just feel the pain bleed out of me but not heal. That's where Austin comes in. So I literally just email him, oh, here's the things I've written. No, I want to work with this program. And not gonna lie, on my birthday, he answers and replies. I think that was 4 or 5 years ago now. But it pivoted from depressing stuff, really gritty, visceral stuff, points where I was sent to the school counselor stuff, to where it is now, where I feel like I can joke around and it doesn't have to be dark humor. I feel like I can play with all these different aspects of poetry now, manipulate them well. And I feel like my familiarity with the dark and deranged, I guess, makes the comedy go through even better. Because I can say some unhinged shit. I won't do it here right now. But that is where my journey has been. I've gone from depression unhinged, depressed, happy unhinged. All right.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, Pita, would you like to share your journey with poetry?
Sure. I was an early reader and fell in love with words at a really young age, but I grew up with a family that used words, as you may have guessed from my poems, as bullets, and so there was a lot of sarcasm and put down. And so in this state of insecurity in 7th grade, I had a teacher named Mr. Tree that introduced us to poetry, but I don't remember like sharing any of that, but just like being fascinated by the form and the way it looked on the page and the way it could sound and the rhythm and the rhyme. And so I started in high school reading. I think I had some literature classes with poetry, but I just remember reading, I don't remember the authors, some of the Chinese poets, and just being sort of fascinated with the simplicity of some of those translations. And then I fell in love with this brilliant high school student, Blythe Nelson, and she was into Sylvia Plath, and so I got introduced to Sylvia Plath, and there was a poem I remember called Hurt Hawk that, is that Langston Hughes? Okay, but anyway, I just discovered that poetry could be really in a concentrated expression of pain, and but also beauty. And so I wrote a poem that I submitted to the high school literary magazine, and it was only like 5 or 6 lines long, and all those high school kids that were responsible for it, it's like they rejected it, and they said they didn't have room in the magazine. And I remember later the adult advisor, like in front of me, just like ripped on them for doing that. And so I felt like I had potential, but I was still really insecure, and there's a pattern of my life of like putting myself out and then just sort of, you know, sarcasm and things happening that just led me to believe that I didn't have much worth as a human being and as a writer or anything I tried to do. And I remember dabbling with poetry throughout my life, and then like in the introduction, like those poems were on napkins or in like newsletters of like some obscure group like the Tongue River Bowmen. You know, I was an archer for a while. And so I like wrote a poem once at a dinner on a napkin, and the secretary like saw it and was like, well, I'm going to publish that in the newsletter. And then that leads up to about 5 years ago, I was working at the domestic violence shelter in Richland Center called Passages. And an email comes into my inbox about untold stories. And I'm not one for responding very well on email, so I call the phone number. And the woman that answered said, well, there's one spot left, and I'm going to take it. And I go, oh, okay, really? And I think I might have mentioned something like, yeah, I saw this last week, and I sat on it, and I'm sorry I didn't respond earlier. And then she goes, I'll tell you what, I'll give up my space. And so that was right around COVID, and that's the first Untold Story workshop with Austin.
So, oh, yeah, clap. Both of you kind of touched on what I'm going to ask next, but maybe we can be a little bit more specific and in detail. But what about poetry uniquely and specifically do you feel sort of lends to your healing, to your journey that other forms of art or media simply cannot? Let's say music, visual art. And also maybe you do partake in music or visual art as well, and if so, talk a little bit about that. But what about poetry do you think really kind of aids in this journey for you?
For me, poetry was the most accessible because on top of just, my own history and my own story, there were also environmental factors that made like story writing a lot harder for me to access, mostly because of school stuff and the funding for MPS being pulled when I got here, that made things a little difficult on the learning end. But when I learned more about poetry, about how it doesn't have to follow grammatical rules, it doesn't necessarily follow the same rules as storytelling, that's what made me gravitate more to it. And over time, poetry actually helped me learn prose a bit better, because I would write free form, and I'd be like, well, even if it's free form, it should be easy to read. And then I eventually got to the point where this ties into the music part and art visuals, where I would then write something, and then if I still felt like that bleeding feeling, I thought to myself, well, it's just going to waste if it stays in me. So I kind of used that bleeding feeling to kind of paint my own pictures for the most part. I used to make mosaics a lot. A lot of the times they were mixed media, but I don't do that as often anymore because magazines are surprisingly expensive now.
Oh, that's beautiful. What about you, Pita?
So I've done a lot of theater arts, and I'm also a visual artist, and I paint. And so I've written plays, but not any novellas or short stories, really. And I think, God, it's such a good question. I think the poetry helps me find the simplicity, a simple way of expressing what's going on in my inner world. But also, like in the poem Ice, you know, I'm outside on Lake Michigan on an island, and I'm watching this ice in the winter, and I'm thinking everything I'm seeing is ice. And then all of a sudden these swans raise their heads. And so I could probably, if I was Ernest Hemingway, you know, win the Nobel Prize writing a novel about that. But you heard the poem. And to just know this with just a few words to try to express what happened there. So that, I guess, answers that.
No, I really loved what you said about, no, I can't quote it verbatim, but something about how it cuts to the simplicity of an emotion or a feeling. I think a lot of people do interpret some poetry as being too obscure or overly complicated, but I do feel like I relate to it in that way where it is kind of a simple sort of release of a feeling. And yeah, so I really enjoyed hearing about that from you too. Okay, so we all just witnessed beautiful performances from you two. And my question is, how did performing for an audience feel? Did you come into this having certain expectations of how it was either going to feel or how it was going to be? And as you check in with yourself now after the fact, how do expectations compare to the reality of the situation? Is there more performing for either of you in your future? If you just want to talk a little bit about your experience of the last hour or so. You want to start? Sorry. We switched it up. Changing it up.
So as you just heard, I do have theater arts in my background, but mostly that's design, build, playwriting, lighting design. I just designed the lights for a play, but I have done some performing. And to prepare for today, after I met John, you know, I'm someone who needs, I'm not an improvisationalist, so I don't have like my poems memorized or anything. So we rehearsed like easily 7 times. We got together. I have an art studio about the size of this room, and that was an amazing process. But I guess to specifically answer your question, you all made this come alive. It's one thing for us to just be hanging out in my art studio and doing and reading the poems and talking about it and, you know, hearing the music, and I hear what he does, and that influences how I read the poems. But I've never read these poems the way I read them today, and it's because of you. To be able to see each of you as I was reading, and to like have a sense of how that was being received influenced how I read it, as well as the music. So that, in that sense, I'd done enough performing that I'd hoped that would be the case. So thank you so much. And being live too, instead of being virtual. So and being an asthmatic, breath obviously is something that's very precious to me. And to bring that element into it, it was very conscious on my part to breathe the way I was breathing and to try to be aware of how you were as well. So it made it come alive, and I look forward to more opportunities.
We look forward to that as well. Ashley, what about you?
So, a lot of the times when I think of performances, my mind instantly goes to where my book title is inspired of, Shakespeare, the comedy aspect and the drama aspect. And correct me if I'm wrong, Pita, but it really felt like we hit both sides of that kind of juxtaposition. I was more of the comedy, you were more of like the drama. And that's, it all comes together. I just practice in front of my cat. Cats are different than humans, though. All they do is meow back. Yes. I mean, there's some times where I have to bring her back with treats, so very tough audience. Performing. I never been necessarily a strong performer. My main issue is I sweat a lot. And that sweat makes it hard to read, and then I can't stop it, and it's the whole thing. But when it comes to performing for y'all today, it felt nice. I felt vulnerable, and I didn't feel like I was going to be like attacked in that vulnerability. So I want to thank you all for that.
Yeah, I want to add to that the idea of safety. Austin, the way you I remember the first things, I don't remember exactly what you said at that first workshop, but instantly I knew I was at a place where I was safe and I could express what had happened in my life, and that I wasn't going to be made fun of or put down or hear the word no or don't do it that way. And none of that ever happened. You never said no to me once. I don't remember ever hearing from you or Christina or Jeannie or you, Ashley, or anyone that were in these workshops. I never heard a no. And I didn't hear it tonight. I'm seeing nodding heads. So I knew coming here that it was going to be a safe place. And that is so, so important. I think, yeah.
All right, so I'm itching to know what is next for both of you. Does it involve the chapbook that we just heard from? Does it involve something outside of the chapbook? Does it involve a new way or perspective to view the chapbook, your art, your life? What's coming up? Also, maybe any final thoughts you have about your experiences with Lotus, this process. Just really looking forward to hearing what's next for both of you. Who would like to start? Who needs extra time to think?
I can start.
Okay.
So most immediately, next Saturday, John and I have planned a similar event in the town where I live in, Viroqua, which is 4,300 people, which is way scarier than this because these are all people that I've lived with I hope that people come. And the ones that come have known me for 16 years. And so I'm going to, as Ashley just said, it's very vulnerable being an artist to begin with, but I guess in a way, for me, this is like a coming out that I'm identifying now as a survivor of sexual abuse, and that's not an identity I've had publicly in my life. And so it's one thing in this room to say it now and to have been supported by Lotus through this program, but I'm confident I can go ahead and do that in my hometown and have it be part of this healing journey of coming into myself and finding this voice that I'm trusting. And so that's one thing. And then as a visual artist, I have two paintings that just got accepted by Arts for All that are going to be on display. What's that art hotel that was mentioned? So there's going to be a display at St. Kate's starting in mid-October to the end of the year with the theme of family, and all of us artists at Arts for All that have won an award were invited. And so that's next in terms of visual. And then I don't have any other events planned after it, but because of Austin, though, when he keeps saying things like, you know, after a chapbook, usually someone publishes a book of poetry. So I keep hearing that, and there are new poems, and I mentioned one in the before I started reading. So, but what happens to me with my neurodivergent brain is it's really easy for me to run into a wall and get stuck, and when that happens, no words come out. And so, I think I have some tools now, like in the form of prompts, whether it's knowing Austin or taking other workshops or just on my own finding ways to be inspired or to find that like key that unlocks the next poem. And so I look forward to that. And I'd love to have more opportunities in Milwaukee here.
Yay! Oh, that's beautiful. And what about you, Ashley?
I don't even know when the FAFSA is going to come out next year, so I'm not sure about poetry even. So I did mention very briefly about trying to be a poetry Elward. What's the name of it? The poetry laureate? Laureate, that one. I'm thinking about applying for the Milwaukee one because I live here, obviously, lived here for a while. And I don't know, I just like helping out the community like I already do with my job. In terms of other things, before this, I worked with Pink Salt Collective, but even before that, I would do fandom designs. For those unaware, that's for like different shows, television shows, could be animated, could be live action. And that's kind of where I'm heading, I think, because I really like the thought of mixed media. I like the thought of collaboration. So maybe might be out there in some fandoms that I'm mostly a part of, Genshin Impact in particular. And hopeful that I find my like-minded people like I have before. We all like the fandom. Most of the time, it's not even like a for money design. It's usually for like a charity or something. So I see myself writing for charity in the future. Maybe the poetry laureate. Who knows? You never know with me. I could be anywhere in the next year.
Awesome. So let's give another round of applause to both Ashley and Pita. Also to Austin and Lotus. You do such amazing work in the community. And Woodland Pattern, thanks for having us. So stay and chat, pick up the book, take one home. Yeah, thank you again so much for being here.